Turn the TV off. Seriously, kill it. I can't listen to another White House press secretary tell me that supply chains are stabilizing while I'm looking at this. You need to see this. I just got off a call with a contact in logistics at the Port of Newark. It's December 16th, right? We should be drowning in last-minute holiday containers. Toys, electronics, winter gear. But he told me the yard is half empty, and the stuff that's sitting there, it's not moving. It's stuck in customs hell because nobody knows what the tariff rate is going to be tomorrow morning. But that's not even the ugly part. The ugly part is what I found when I cross-referenced his numbers with this World Bank leak. You know that narrative we've been fed since April, since Liberation Day? The whole "we'll suffer a little bit of inflation to bring the jobs home" speech? It was a lie. Look at this chart. That red line dropping off the cliff? That is not just market volatility. That is 10% of the entire global economy evaporating. We are talking about $10 trillion, roughly the value of every single company in Europe, just gone in 8 months. And here is why I'm actually terrified, and I don't use that word lightly. Usually, when the global economy slows down, prices drop, right? Demand goes down, things get cheaper. Basic economics. But look at your grocery bill from yesterday. Look at what you paid to fill up your tank on the way here. Everything is more expensive. We are in a wealth trap. We're paying luxury prices for survival goods because the trade war didn't just break the supply chain, it poisoned it. I feel sick looking at this because I know what comes next. The media is focused on the stock market bouncing back a little bit this week. They're saying, look, the Dow is green. They are dazzling you with a scoreboard while the stadium burns down. Because what they aren't reporting, what Al Jazeera hinted at but didn't fully explain, is why that GDP is vanishing. It's not just that trade has stopped. It's that our partners, India, the EU, Brazil, they aren't just putting up their own walls. They're effectively canceling us. They are building a new system that doesn't include the dollar. And this report, it says the tipping point isn't in 2030, it isn't in 5 years, it's January. I need you to really focus now. Forget the politics, forget who you voted for. If you have money in a bank or a pension or a job that relies on selling anything to anyone outside of Ohio, you are walking into a buzzsaw. Here is what is actually happening behind the curtain. The mic is hot. Let's break this down. Give me the topic. Because this didn't just happen. This wasn't an accident. To understand why your grocery bill is suffocating you right now, you have to go back to a specific Tuesday morning in April 2nd, 2025. The White House press pool called it Liberation Day. Remember that? The banners, the frantic chyron on Fox News, the pure adrenaline of it. It was sold to us as the ultimate power move. The president walked out into the Rose Garden. It was overcast that day, remember? A little gray, a little ominous. And he didn't just sign a bill. He invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. That is the nuclear football of trade economics. See, usually when you want to change tariffs, you go to Congress, you debate, you have lobbyists screaming in the hallway. It takes months. But Trump, he bypassed all of it. He looked at the camera and said the current trade deficit was a national emergency. And with the stroke of a pen, literally one signature using that thick black marker, he didn't just slap a tax on China, he slapped a tax on everyone. That was the moment the world broke. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know what the guy at the gym tells you. We survived the 2018 trade war, didn't we? The stock market hit record highs back then. This is just the same playbook. No, stop. That is the single most dangerous lie being told right now. 2018 was a skirmish. It was a negotiation tactic. We put tariffs on washing machines and steel. They put tariffs on soybeans. It was painful for farmers, sure, but it was targeted. It was a scalpel. What happened in April and what ramped up in August wasn't a scalpel, it was a sledgehammer. The Reciprocal Trade Act he enacted basically said, if you charge us, we charge you, plus a little extra for the trouble. It sounds fair on a bumper sticker, it sounds great at a rally, but here is the reality of the math. When you put a blanket 10% tariff on every single thing entering the United States and a 60 to 125% tariff on our biggest manufacturing partner, China, you aren't just taxing them, you are taxing the process of making things. Let's get real for a second. Let's talk about that new pickup truck you wanted to buy. The Ford, the Chevy, it doesn't matter. They tell you it's made in America, and it is assembled here. But the computer chip that runs the fuel injection? Taiwan. The magnesium in the frame? China. The wiring harness? Mexico. On April 3rd, all those parts went up overnight. So GM and Ford had a choice. They could eat the cost and lose money, or they could pass it to you. And guess what they did? They passed it to you. That sticker shock you felt when you looked at the 2026 models, that extra $8,000 added to the MSRP, that isn't corporate greed, although yeah, there's some of that too. That is the tax. You are paying the tariff. You are paying the Liberation Day fee. And the villain in this story isn't just one person, it's the arrogance of thinking we could rewrite the laws of physics. You have Peter Navarro's disciples in the White Wing telling the president that the world needs the U.S. consumer so badly that they would just swallow the costs. They thought Europe would fold. They thought India would bow down. They thought China would beg. But look at the map. They didn't beg. They retaliated. When we hit India with that reciprocal tariff, Modi didn't fly to D.C. to apologize. He hit back with a 50% levy on U.S. tech services and blocked Apple's expansion in Bangalore. Boom! Overnight, Silicon Valley lost its biggest growth market. When we hit the EU, Germany didn't scrap their cars. They signed a new trade deal with Brazil and China the next week. This is the wealth trap the World Bank is screaming about. We are stuck in a room where we keep punching ourselves in the face, expecting the other guy to hurt. And the worst part? The false hope that keeps people buying stocks? Everyone keeps saying, the Fed will save us, Powell will cut rates. Listen to me closely. The Fed cannot save you this time. Usually, when the economy tanks, the Fed cuts interest rates to make money cheap, right? But they can't do that now. Why? Because tariffs cause inflation. Prices are going up because of the taxes. If the Fed cuts rates, inflation explodes to 10% or 12%. If they keep rates high, the housing market, which is already on life support, dies completely. They are trapped. We are trapped. And the people in charge, they aren't looking for a key to let us out. They're doubling down. I heard whispers that the Phase 2 tariffs coming in January aren't just about goods. They're going after capital flows. They want to stop you from investing overseas. It's a mess. It's a complete systemic mess. And to understand how truly broken it is, I need to explain it to you in a way that has nothing to do with economics. I need you to imagine a very specific, very messy situation. Imagine we all live in a massive, sprawling, gated community. I'm talking about a neighborhood where everyone relies on everyone else. You've got the guy who grows the vegetables, that's the global south. You've got the guy who makes the tools, that's Germany and China. And you've got the guy who owns the bank and buys everything. That's us. That's the United States. For 50 years, the rules of this neighborhood were simple. We keep the gates open, we trade. I buy your tomatoes, you buy my software, and we all get rich. Sure, sometimes the guy making the tools charges a little too much, or the vegetable guy undercuts the market, but generally the property values go up. But on April 2nd, the guy who owns the bank, us, decided he was sick of it. He walked out onto his front lawn, looked at the neighbors, and said, "You guys are screwing me. I'm paying for the security, I'm paving the roads, and you're just getting rich off my credit card." So he didn't just lock his front door. He built a toll booth at the end of his driveway. He told the neighborhood, "From now on, if you want to sell me your tomatoes, you have to pay me 10% just to walk up my driveway. And you," he points at the tool maker, China, "you have to pay me 100%. Now, in his head, in the America First logic, this makes sense. He thinks, I'm the only customer who matters. They need to sell to me, so they'll pay the toll, I'll pocket the cash, and I'll use that money to fix my own roof. But here is where the bar fight starts. Here is where the trap snaps shut. The neighbors didn't pay the toll. They didn't line up at the driveway begging to get in. Instead, they just stopped coming over. The vegetable guy looked at the tool guy and said, "Hey, why don't I just sell to you directly?" And the tool guy said, "Deal. And while we're at it, let's build a new road that goes around the American guy's house." This is exactly what is happening with the global growth trap right now. When we slapped those tariffs on everyone, we thought we were charging admission to the world's best party, but the world just decided to hold the party somewhere else. I saw a report on the specialized trade wires yesterday, stuff the nightly news ignores. Brazil and China just signed a massive agriculture deal, denominated in yuan, not dollars, yuan. They're trading soybeans and machinery directly, bypassing us completely. The toll booth at the end of our driveway, it's empty. And inside our house, the fridge is empty. Because we still need those tomatoes. We still need those tools. But now, because the neighbors won't pay the toll, we have to pay it ourselves just to get them to deliver. Or we try to grow the tomatoes in our own backyard, which is what reshoring is. But have you ever tried to start a farm in your backyard overnight? It takes years. You have to buy the seeds, till the soil, and wait for the rain. But we need food today. So now we are stuck in this nightmare scenario where we have no cheap imports, no local production ready to replace it yet, and no friends in the neighborhood. Honestly, I almost feel bad for them. Almost. Because they painted themselves into this corner. I look at the trade advisors in the White House, and I know they aren't evil. They aren't trying to destroy the economy. They looked at the Rust Belt. They looked at the hollowed-out towns in Pennsylvania, and they felt righteous anger. They wanted to smash the system that shipped those jobs away. I get that. I feel that. But you don't fix a broken engine by pouring sugar in the gas tank. And that's what this trade regime is. It's sugar in the engine. They thought they were punishing the other drivers, but they just stalled the only car we have. I know, it sounds like fiction. I wish it was. I wish I could tell you this was just a bad dream or some theoretical model, but I'm looking at the manufacturing index for December. It's at 42. Anything below 50 is a contraction. We are shrinking. The engine is seizing up. And here is the domino effect. This is the part that is going to keep you up at night, so listen carefully. This is the chain reaction that leads to that 10% GDP destruction. Domino 1, the inventory panic. This happened back in May and June. As soon as the tariffs were announced, every company in America panicked. Target, Walmart, Ford, they all rushed to buy as much stuff as possible before the rates hiked. They maxed out their credit lines to fill warehouses with tariff-free goods. That created a fake boom in the summer. Everyone thought, hey, the economy is great. But it wasn't growth, it was hoarding. Now, those warehouses are full, but nobody is buying because prices are too high. So orders have stopped. Dead. Domino 2, the cash flow crunch. Because those companies spend all their cash hoarding inventory that isn't selling, they are broke. Literally. They have no liquidity. I'm hearing about massive layoffs planned for January, not because business is bad, but because they can't make payroll. They are asset-rich with unsold inventory, but cash poor. And when companies can't make their bills, they stop paying their suppliers. Domino 3, the retaliatory spiral. This is the India move and the Euro freeze. Because we taxed them, they taxed our high-margin stuff. Tech, pharma, services. The stuff America is actually good at. We used to sell billions of dollars of software and consulting to the world. Now, a German bank isn't going to hire an American consulting firm that costs 25% more due to digital services taxes. They'll hire a British one or a French one. We're losing the high ground jobs while trying to protect the low ground jobs. Domino 4, the dollar doom loop. This is the final domino, the big one. Because trade is shrinking, fewer people need US dollars to do business. If Brazil sells to China in yuan, they don't need dollars. If India buys Russian oil in rupees, they don't need dollars. Demand for the dollar drops. Usually, a weaker dollar helps exports, right? But nobody wants our exports because of the retaliation tariffs. So we get the worst of both worlds. A weakening currency that makes imports more expensive, inflation, but no export boom to offset it. That is the trap. We are trapped in a cycle of high inflation, low growth, and isolation, and the World Bank knows it. That's why they slashed the forecast. They see the mechanism, they see the toll booth, and they see the neighbors walking away. And if you think this ends when the ball drops on New Year's Eve, you are wrong. The scariest part is what the administration is planning to do because this isn't working. They aren't going to take the toll booth down. They're going to build a wall around it. Let me tell you what January looks like. The mic is hot. Let's break this down. Give me the topic. Let me tell you what January looks like. And I'm not talking about the weather. I'm talking about the financial climate that is about to freeze your assets in place. I've been digging through the legislative proposals, the stuff that gets floated in closed-door committee meetings but never gets the 6 p.m. news. And the Phase 2 plan isn't just about tariffs. Tariffs were the blunt instrument. Tariffs were the hammer. Phase 2 is the cage. The rumor, and it's getting louder every single day, is that on January 1st, or maybe the first week of the new session, we are going to see capital export controls. Now, that sounds boring, right? It sounds like banker jargon, but let me translate it for you. They are going to try to lock the exits. Because here is the ugly truth that nobody in Washington will admit. The smart money is trying to leave. The hedge funds, the family offices, the guys who actually know how the plumbing works. They see the 10% global contraction, they see the retaliatory spirals, and they are moving their cash to Singapore. They're moving it to Zurich. They're buying assets that aren't denominated in a dollar that's being weaponized. And the administration sees this. They see the capital flight, and they can't have that. They can't have the America First economy bleeding cash. So they're going to put up walls, not just for goods coming in, but for money going out. You might wake up in February and find that your brokerage account has new restrictions on international funds. You might find that sending money to a relative in Europe triggers a review. You might find that buying crypto, which has been the escape hatch for a lot of people, suddenly comes with a 30% exit tax if you try to cash it out into anything other than US dollars. That is the immediate future. That is the next 6 months. A tightening, a constriction, a feeling that your money is trapped in the room with you and the room is getting smaller. But I want to look further out. I want to zoom out to the 2030 vision that this World Bank report is hinting at. Because if we stay on this path, if the reciprocal trade regime becomes permanent, the world you and I grew up in is dead. We grew up in a world where made in China meant cheap and made in Germany meant quality, and you could buy both at Walmart. By 2030, that world is gone. I'm seeing a future that looks like a fractured mirror. Two separate internets, two separate banking systems, two separate supply chains. Imagine walking into a Best Buy in 2030. The shelves aren't empty, but they look different. There's no more variety. You don't have 20 options for a laptop, you have 3, and they are all made in USA or made in approved partner zones. They're heavier, they're slower, and they cost 3 times what you pay today. Why? Because without the global supply chain, we lose efficiency. We lose the specialization that made things cheap. You're going to be paying artisanal prices for mass-produced junk because there is no competition to keep the quality up. And look at the grocery store. This is where it's going to hurt the most. You know how we're used to eating whatever we want, whenever we want? Avocados in January, grapes in March? That's over. The global logistics network that moves perishable food around the world relies on low tariffs and fast borders. When every container has to be inspected for compliance, the fruit rots at the dock. So by 2030, you're eating seasonally again, and not in a cute farm-to-table hipster way, in a that's all there is way. If you live in Minnesota, you aren't seeing a banana in February unless you're rich. It sounds dystopian, I know. It sounds like I'm describing the Soviet Union in the 80s, but look at the trajectory. Look at the data. We are deglobalizing at a speed that is terrifying the experts. We are unwinding 40 years of integration in 40 months. So what do? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy who reads the footnotes. But if you were my brother, if you were sitting right here across from me, here's what I would tell you. First, stop waiting for normal. Normal is not coming back. The prices you saw in 2019, they are history books. Stop planning your life as if interest rates are going back to 2% and gas is going back to $2.50. Accept the new baseline. This is the new reality. Adjust your budget now for a world where everything costs double and the dollar buys half. If you are waiting to buy a house or a car because you think prices have to come down, you might be waiting forever. In a wealth trap, prices don't crash, they just drift higher while your wages stagnate. Second, get out of the system's debt. If you have variable rate debt, credit cards, adjustable mortgages, kill it. Kill it with fire. Because if the Fed is trapped, if they can't lower rates because of tariff inflation, those rates are going to stay high for a decade. The banks are going to squeeze you to make up for their lost corporate profits. Do not be the juice they squeeze. Liquidity is freedom. If you own your things outright, their reciprocal tax can't hurt you as much. Third, invest in tangible utility. This sounds like prepper talk, but it's just common sense in a broken trade environment. When the supply chains fracture, things become more valuable than paper. I'm not saying go buy a bunker. I'm saying fix your house, insulate your windows, buy the tools you need to maintain your car, learn how to fix things. Because in 2028, when a replacement part for your washing machine is on a 6-month back order from Mexico because of a trade dispute, being able to fix it yourself isn't a hobby, it's a necessity. The wealth trap destroys the value of passive investment. The stock market might go sideways for 10 years. Look at the 1970s. But a paid-off home, a working vehicle, and a set of skills, those can't be inflated away. Fourth, tighten your circle. This is the big brother advice. The government isn't coming to save you. The corporations aren't coming to save you. When the economy contracts by 10%, the social safety net frays. You need to rely on your people. Who are your neighbors? Do you know them? If the power grid gets expensive or the supply trucks stop running for a week, who do you trade with? We're moving from a global economy to a local economy. The people who thrive in the next 5 years will be the ones who build strong local networks. The people who suffer will be the ones sitting alone in their apartment waiting for an Amazon package that never comes. And finally, watch the exits. I'm not saying leave the country. I'm saying have options. Keep your passport renewed. Keep a little bit of cash outside the banking system. Keep a little bit of value in something the government can't devalue with a signature. Whether that's gold or crypto or just land, don't have 100% of your life tied to the decisions of a few men in a closed room in Washington, D.C. Because they have proven on April 2nd, on August 15th, and again right now, that they are willing to gamble with your stability to prove a point. They're playing a game of chicken with the global economy, and they might think they can win. But looking at these charts, looking at the red ink bleeding across the map, I don't think they're winning. I think they're crashing the car. So put your seatbelt on, lock your doors, and don't believe the guy on TV telling you it's just a pothole. It's a cliff. Stay sharp, stay hidden. I'll see you in the comments.